It's Thursday night, and you know what that means? It's Thematically Speaking. And we're going to get straight into this because I've got a lot of guests to bring on the show. So one by one, let's go through some of the TPM alumni. This is Steven Vig. How you doing, Steven?
Hi, how are you? I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good, yeah. Next, we've got Tom Dichello, Mr. Fish. How you doing, Mr. Fish?
Hello. Oh, good.
And next, we've got Mer. She will be on camera later on.
Hello. I'm trying to rectify this.
And we've got the man himself, Paige, the special guest that I didn't announce in case he couldn't be here, but he is here.
Oh,
How are you doing, Paige?
all good, thank you.
So, start off with Paige, even though he said not to. We go back, because I'm going to mainly talk today about the glory days of like about 2012 to 2016. But I thought if I go back and talk to Paige about when did you first join TPM, and tell us a bit about what from there to when you first started organising the meets, went into that role.
So CPM, I think, was 2007 or 8. Like it started off, but it was over at South Park originally from like 2000.
Oh, it was part of South Park, was it?
Yeah, no, TPM wasn't start of South Park. So I was like, South Park was starting to wane off, it's starting to fall apart. So then I moved to TPM in 2007, I think it was. I wasn't really much of a member on there. I was just like a background person. But then when it got to probably a few years later, once South Park had diminished, and I could see TPM was starting to go down that route of like what South Park was like 3 or 4 years beforehand and all that.
If I interrupt you for a minute, do you remember? Because I remember when I joined TPM, and I recognised you because we'd already met. Do you remember Theme Park preview?
I do remember the Theme Park preview. Yeah, there was a Testington video, I think, wasn't there?
What was did you go to any of their meets before the one I went to on Theme Park preview?
No, I think it was just like 1 or 2. I ended up being there because someone randomly said to come, so I did. I think there was like an ERT thing on Dragon's Fury, if I remember correctly.
It was do you remember when this what it was like? It's about, I think it was 2009, 2010, but the 2 guys who ran it, we got ERS on Dragon's Fury, and they just duct taped camera between the 2 headrests.
Yeah, I've still got the video of the day actually somewhere.
Oh yeah, I don't think I've got one. I can't remember if I filmed actually. I don't know if I did.
Yeah, it's good like 15-18-minute video with like B-Whips and as like a kind of a background music.
Oh, rollercoaster.
Yeah, rollercoaster, and there's a couple of other bits as well, sort of thing.
I thought they only got away with the ARS because they got confused with Theme Park Review.
We got a nice.
There were only about 10 of us there, weren't there? We had like Dragon's Fury for an hour.
It was very small, but it was an enjoyable day.
Anyway, I kind of went off topic there. What was the
Oh, that's the whole point of these things. You just chat about it, don't you?
So you get into when you joined TPM, which is Thorpe Park Mania for everyone else.
So I'd South Park had diminished. I was on was in TPM quite a bit at that point. Then I think when about 2012, that's when like I could see numbers were starting to diminish at meets, and there wasn't really much control. Everyone was just like kind of doing their own thing, and everyone's splitting up all the time and everything like that. And I was like, this is not going to last that much longer.
I don't know if we're allowed to talk about it because they're part of Towers Times, aren't they? But some bad stuff. They got a bad reputation with the park, didn't they?
What?
I understand.
TPM?
No, South Parks.
They did get a bad reputation at one point, but there was other bits and pieces. I think it had been going for 10 years. I think it just had its time at that point. Then, of course, it's come back in a different light now, and it's gone to new strengths and heights. But I know the kind of like the old core people of that. It's like sometimes it's one of those ones when you got good memories of something, why ruin it by
bringing it back,
going back into something which is, you know, there's a whole new generation who's doing that now, so they're having good.
They didn't need to really bring the name back, did they?
No, well, in a way, you kind of knew who, still being run by the same people. I even ended up working in the same office with Chris Bailey,
Oh, really?
in a property thing, yeah. But then we kept randomly bumping into each other. That was weird.
Did he say hello, or did he pretend he didn't know you?
Oh no, we literally were like, he was like the desk behind me, so it's not as if he couldn't like. I remember got the job, and then I was starting my first day, and I was like, "What the fuck are you doing here?" and he was there.
We don't want the riffraff in here, thanks.
I know, exactly. So, and then I remember one of the kind of owners at the place was like, "Oh God, not another one who also likes that type of stuff." I thought that was just an oddball, but now you got two of them. So it wasn't just the same like an odd kind of interest in their eyes. But yeah, so that's how I ended up. So yeah, after sort of meets just being completely being just everyone splitting off, and that's when I was like, I've seen this happen before. I know I can run events. I'm a people person. And so I put my name forward just to kind of get things going and build it back up. I remember the first meet I did was 3 or 4 people.
Were there meetups at TPM before you joined, or was it more just a forum thing?
No, there was meets being done. I was doing meets from 2008 with them sort of thing. I think it's been run by Mark and Ian and this and the other at the time.
So you were still were you a TPM member then?
Yeah, I was a TPM member, yeah. So, as I said, going from South Park, I was on TPM as a background person, but never really posted. And then there was a couple of people from South Park who had joined TPM, so they said, "Oh, come to this meet. We're going to the park anyway." You know what it's like when you've met people. You end up making friends, and people just drag you along, and then you end up in another kind of group. So I accidentally fell into it in a sense.
What made you stop organising the meets? I've jumped ahead now, but
that's
the other obvious question.
I had done 50 of them.
You actually counted? Had you planned that you wanted to do 50 and then that was it?
Well, it wasn't the kind of case that I planned to do 50. It's that I remember I was doing one a month, and you also become a bit of an agony uncle to everyone that's on the kind of the forums, and you kind of need to be open and kind of listening to people to encourage them to come to the meet sort of thing, because ultimately things that
it's almost like you're giving them sort of don't know if it's the right word, like pastoral care almost. Do you know what I mean?
In a sense, and after 4 years, I felt like my time had come up, sort of thing. I could have kept things going, but things probably would have then started becoming stale because I would just be repeating the same kind of ideas, leave it on a high in a sense. Which when people look back on it, people still look at those years as a nice time, and people have made friends they're still friends with. People.
Are you still a member on there now?
Say what?
Are you still a member on there now?
I think I'm still an admin.
Are you an active member there, or is it just you didn't delete it?
I think I haven't deleted it. I've forgotten the last time I logged in. I think the last time I logged in, I remember I was I was in Belgium somewhere, and I think I was with Austin and Dean. I think Endless Days was what their Austin's one, and
I remember Endless Days.
And they were talking about some of the stuff I had to do as admin, and I remember going through these messages and we were reading out some of the things that were kind of said to other members, where I'm kind of giving them a telling off or whatever.
He told me about this we chatted about this last week. He was on the show last week, Austin.
Yes.
Because he went into that. I won't go into it again in detail, but the DGC, who is he? And we got
exactly all that type of stuff. And then it's kind of odd when you're reading these messages, because it's they're your mates, but you have to do the rightful thing, and treat everyone the same whilst you're in that kind of role as well, sort of thing. So it's it's funny reading back on the messages, because it's not what I would actually say to people.
What was your favourite meet, Peach? That's Dark Adder. You saying that?
Favorite meet, I probably say it came to a probably when we did Europa Park. That was I think the thing that was quite special for me on that one. I've been doing it a few years at that point, and I remember we'd got back from the park. We'd all got back into our sallies and all that, and then everyone just like said, "You just sit down. We'll sort everything out in the evening." And everyone like kind of like came together, and they were all cooking food, and ball games came out, and this and the other. And it just felt really communal. And it just felt like, you know, after all that kind of years of getting it to where it was. Hello. Getting it to where it was, that you know, you had people from all over the country coming to that meet as well, and I've got them all over to Germany, and everyone was all like kind of getting on with each other, and it wasn't just the theme park at that point. It was that kind of just a group of people interacting and this and the other. If it was in the UK, probably the Blackpool ones, they've always went quite well. They were always quite nice, kind of.
Whenever I think of TPM,
ones.
I got a lot of good memories, but I'll say this, and it's probably not the same for everyone. I don't have many memories, good or bad, from any of the Thorpe meets I went to. But I can remember the Chessington one, I can remember the Blackpool one I went to, even the Drayton one, and I can remember like Alton Towers a couple of times. But I'm trying to think of the Thorpe Park.
This is the thing. Even though it was Thorpe Park Mania, I tried to get most of the meets away from.
You changed it to Theme Park Mania.
Well, we could. Well, we wouldn't be able to because it was taken up. But
was it taken? Was it?
Yeah, that was taken. But the thing with because we were Thorpe Park Mania, we had to do like 2 or 3 meets a year there because we had that relationship with the park. But ultimately, the meets that people enjoyed were the ones away from Thorpe Park. Because, you know, as people know, if you go to the same park loads and loads of times, it gets a bit boring quite quickly. And also, generally, I find the observations at Thorpe can be quite.
Did everyone else in this chat? I didn't go. Did everyone else? I know Tom went to Europa with you. Did Mer and Steven go?
Mer definitely was there. I remember we got very drunk on the first night.
Well, I didn't.
Had a bottle of champagne.
I didn't go to
it. We looked very, very petite.
Do you remember? I don't know how many of you were there for that, and if I remember this wrong, it's going to come across really odd. But didn't you do a promotion thing for Thorpe where you were photoed as a group outside Stealth, and wasn't it something to do with bubbles or something like that?
It was to do ice cream.
Ice cream.
So,
that was it.
Yeah, so it was in the summer, and I remember I've never been, and I think we did like Stealth. We had to get there like really ridiculously early in the morning. It's like 7, 8 o'clock sort of thing. It all started before the park opened, and we ended up having to go in a row like 23, 27 times, depending on the actual thing, of staying sitting on Stealth, which you thought would be quite luxurious, just sitting around for 2 or 3 hours. But with the amount of Ds going up and down, it's so knackering. And I think a lot of us were quite glad once that photo shoot had finished, just so we could have a bit of a break.
What about the competitions at the meets? People were asking in the chat. I remember the spoons.
Yeah,
vividly.
we had spooning. That got more and more lethal each year.
That's the only one that's the only memory I've got from a Thorpe Park TPM meet was the spoons.
Yeah, I think the spooning opening meet was always the best Thorpe Park one of the year. I know we had our Ministry of Sound ones sort of things. I always, whenever I was doing a meet, I'd always want some kind of icebreaker type of thing to go with it, because generally you always had some new members going on. Yes, we had like the kind of like the core people who were there quite often, so they already knew that, but you had to find a way to integrate the new members to kind of go in, and that's where spooning came from. And in Chessington you had Empire.
It sounds bad when you say it like that.
I know, it's like, oh, everyone want a bit of a spooning session, you know, it's like this and the other. And then at Chessington we did the Empire game, where
what was that?
people had to
I remember they had to take other people.
so everyone had like a ride.
Yeah, you had to guess what it was.
But
Yeah.
it was all secret. And if they guessed it, you captured them basically. And then you ended up going away with a flag because you
Oh yeah, I remember the flag. That's the one thing I remember about that meet was the flag. It was iconic.
The spooning one, you got like an Easter egg if you'd won that one. And then I know someone said about towers. That was basically that was like kind of loads of mini challenges throughout the day. So you generally get points depending on how well you do. It could be like you.
Did you have to start writing the points down at that point?
For towers, it was a bit more of a complicated game. But basically, like it knocked people out throughout the day, and then it would end up like being like the top two would have to do one of those standing battles with the buttons to knock people off the side.
Oh, like I've got video of Tom still on YouTube kicking about somewhere of him and Hannah doing that.
So there was always something to go with each meet, sort of thing. Like the Ministry of Sound, the icebreaker would be the alcohol and the clubbing.
The alcohol. The icebreaker is alcohol.
Alcohol was, I know I brought that into the meet quite a bit. I remember when I first started bringing people, because I think a lot of people actually...
Don't say anything that's going to get you in trouble at this point, Peach.
I think people started preferring the after theme park stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I remember one time we went to Towers and we stayed in like Newcastle under Lyme, I think. And we all stayed in that same travel lodge. That was the time you got stopped by the police on the way back because you had a bottle of wine without the lid on it.
Correct. So that was at the train station, if I remember correctly.
That was the same time when I don't know if Ben did it, but didn't you and Jack Stevens have that really hot chicken and it was really hot?
Yes.
Really spicy.
Somewhere. Like I've been quite fortunate. I've done a lot of meets and like kind of tips sort of thing. Like I've got all these memories, but I kind of forget which.
They're all faded into one.
What thing?
So Tom, how you doing? You're discoing over there?
Yeah, all good here.
Do you want to tell us about went to Thorpe Park and your past there?
Yeah, it was quite good. There's a few rides shot. And also it wasn't too busy, so we got on quite a few bits. So,
what's your next trip you planned?
Nothing yet. Hopefully we're doing Florida this year.
You should get that booked by now, shouldn't you?
Well, it is, the flights and the hotel are booked.
Oh, you just not booked the parks. I was going to say.
The park's like one of the most expensive bits. It's like 300, sorry, 800 quid for just the park tickets. And then because we're going at Halloween, a lot of them don't include the Halloween event as well.
Is that a 14-day ticket?
Yeah. So you have to pay, so if you want to do like Universal Horror Nights, you have to pay like an extra 60 quid on top of it.
Oh, you're going in October?
Yeah. Otherwise it's going to be too hot.
That's very good the best time to go, to be fair.
Yeah, it is. Even though it is Halloween, tornado time.
Pleasure Beach experience. Dan says he got a Pleasure Beach experience at the end of the month. They got any ERS on that, Dan?
Okay.
So I feel like we're not talking to Mer enough, but did you want to bring up some memories of TPM that don't include anything too bad, too sinister? I'm thinking of Hannah. Then I'm like, we won't mention any of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. There's so many. I'm like, yeah, like I think. Well, like Peter mentioned, like the Europa meet, that was good. Well, there were loads, but I'm just thinking, that those ones like Disneyland's, that was fun. Like
I definitely remember Steve Vig at Disneyland in the country club at the end of the night. Trying to get home.
Did you get lost on the way home from the club?
Oh, was this thing?
I think Tom like.
Oh, Tom knows the story.
This was like quite an eventful night where we spent the hard day on our feet. Then everyone went clubbing afterwards to about 3 o'clock when they kicked us all out, literally out of the park. We got escorted out.
Is that because you wouldn't leave, or because you were being too rowdy? Was that the closing time?
I don't know, but they did kick us out, and then we couldn't remember the way back. But luckily, can remember the way back, so it wasn't too bad. Yeah, but that was a crazy night. That was a fun night, though. It was such a long day. We were in the parks about 10 o'clock, so I think it was like 10 till 10.
Did you get there at 10?
I think we tried to. I think it might have been a bit later. That was pretty much it's a good day though. I really enjoyed that Disney meet.
Was that? Did you do the movie park as well?
Yeah, we just normally hop between the two.
I just get a 2-day hopper ticket.
Yeah, that's normally the best way to do it because there's not that much to do in the studio park to spend the whole day in.
Do you want to tell us something about? I have a lot of funny memories of you at specifically Fright Nights when we've been at Thorpe Park. Have you like singing in the queue lines and things like that? Do you want to get into that, Tom?
Oh, when I've had one drink too many. But yeah.
At least that one.
Yeah, normally. But good times, yeah. You have to sing in the queue to kill time, especially when there's a 3-hour queue. I think it's like 3-hour queue we queued for, what was it? Cabin in the Woods, that was it.
Cabin in the Woods was good though.
Yeah, it was worth it.
We got evac right at the end, so we got to go through again.
It was definitely worth it. Cabin in the Woods was one of the best horror mazes at Thorpe Park.
What's the best one now?
What's the new one this year? It's like, I can't remember the name now. What's it like all the other mazes in there?
Oh, Face It Alone.
I never actually did Face It Alone. I didn't brave it.
I remember doing Face It Alone for Asylum, and it was one of the most terrifying things I'd ever done.
Are you allowed to say what happened or not?
To be honest, I just remember there being a very, very naked man running up to me, one of the actors, because this was the year. I think this was the year before they were told to tone it down a bit. But I do remember a very, very nude man running up after me, and it was just chaos. I'd done it during the day, or as soon as it opened normally, and then just went to do Brave It Alone, and it was just like one extreme to the other. It was nuts. But I was absolutely terrified. I mean, if I did that now, I probably wouldn't be as scared. But yeah, that was. Did you
get to choose which one you did? Because I know there was one you at least.
Yeah, so I think this was the first year where you could actually just book on to whatever maze you wanted, and then as the years went on, they started to introduce the wheel, and then there was the whole thing where you, that was with the wheel when you went around the park with the masks on and stuff, which I did one year as well. That was quite interesting. But this was the park
with masks on. Right.
Yeah, so there was a whole ceremony where it started off at, I think, near like the dome or something, and they would like some hosts or something would meet you. I'm literally doing this off my memory. There's a picture on Facebook somewhere. You've got to wear like these clown masks over you, and you've got to hold this rope, and you're all going in single file, and you're being led through the park, across the bridge over Amity, all the way, outside the megastore. And then we all stood around, and then all the actors would just go nuts, and then there'll be like a whole ceremony with the whole wheel, and they would spin it, and they would be like that would be determining which maze you would do that evening. But yeah, so that's when they kind of improved on it a little bit rather than just pay for it and just do it. So.
It was like the campaign they used to give you before they did the wheel, and you could do the thing, and you had to meet in the bit opposite where hippos used to be. Yeah. And you got your Sampers, and then they had like people going around, and then you had like centipedes and everything like that. I did a few of those Face It Alone, so I don't get scared in these. So I'm always wanting to go up to the next limit. And I remember I was always like, I was content, but it's like it could be a little bit more. And I remember the final one I did, which I think was My Bloody Valentine, I basically practically came out naked. I just had my underwear left, but they were trying to take that off.
Did you have your clothes with you though, or did you have to wait for those to get those back?
I had to wait for my clothes to come back after everyone else got out, so I was basically standing in the park, like stark naked.
It's quite cold, isn't it?
Coal, yeah, and I had coal covered all down me. And I remember, I still look back on that one, and I'm like, I don't know if I enjoyed it or not. because like there was a lot of gagging involved. I think it went a bit too
I'm guessing you
sexual.
sign a waiver for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
You do. You like. So I remember I went in and like they literally whipped me with this whip, like so many times the amount of like people I'd killed or something. And I was like, okay, that's a little bit more sort of thing. And I was fine with it to start off with, and it kept going. It's like, oh, can I handle this that little bit more? Like I'm not sure. But then when it's getting like the gag, I think the gag just finished me off, sort of thing. I was glad to get out of it. I still feel sexually abused from the experience, and being totally honest.
Is that the most scared you've ever been? Because you say you don't get scared in these things.
This is the thing. I wouldn't say I was scared. I was just more like, I think it's gone over the line. Because it's the thing. It wasn't like horror at that point. It just become sexual sort of thing. So it's more like stuff that I
feel like they've run out of things to scare you with.
Yeah,
without
so
going to
they
that
just
bit
went
now.
for the
If you know what I mean.
extreme. Like, I think if I did it again, I probably would go in a bit scared, thinking like, I hope they don't do anything like that.
I don't think they do it anymore, do they?
No, they don't. But if they did,
No, they definitely won't. There's a whole health. There'll be health and safety.
I don't know. There's a waiver involved.
No, absolutely not.
So, do you want to talk more about how TPM's been since Peach left, Tom, or anyone else? Well, not since he's left. He's not left, but he gave up doing the meet. How's it been since?
No, we had the whole disaster of Ryan and.
I'll be honest. The meets were never the same. Like, I'm just going to say it as it is.
Yeah.
They were never the same.
I think Peach put a lot more planning into them than anyone else would have.
That's the problem. I think everyone became so accustomed to Peach's great organisation, and then once he gave up that role, it kind of went a little bit downhill.
So, does anyone remember the first meet after Peach stopped doing it?
The only one I can remember is the Christmas meet, which I think was, if I remember rightly, I might be wrong. It might be the first one that Ryan and Paige. Is it Paige?
Yeah, so I remember the Christmas meet was the time, because that was my final one.
Yeah.
That was the final one.
So,
I'm thinking that's when you announced that it was going to be them taking over.
Yeah,
actually,
and so basically it was announced, and then they were on that meet where I was like kind of like taking less of a role, but I was still running it. They were going to be stepping up into it, sort of thing. So there's a bit of a transition doing that meet. And then they were, fully down to Len. I think they lasted a year, if I remember correctly. And then I think someone called Matt took it on.
How did that go?
Not great.
By
this point, I was already sort of almost. I was very much a ghost member by this point, but I was still keeping an eye on it to see if meets were coming up and who was attending and how many people, how well they were being run, and you could see the numbers were starting to dwindle.
The first
the point where they just don't happen now.
They don't happen at all now.
Well, even before coronavirus, they were very almost non-existent. I think.
I believe it's coming back now. They've got a new meat person. I saw the other day.
It's this Josh now, isn't it?
I know it's a girl called Holly. I have no idea who she is.
Okay. I thought it was.
I've never.
While we're here, Josh Coyston's birthday was yesterday, so happy birthday to Josh.
Happy birthday, Josh.
But so he's not. I could have sworn I spoke to him and he said he was involved, but I guess Tom knows.
I think Josh involved in like the actual TPM, but I'm not sure. Yeah, like he does all the Facebook and website updates, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, the forum's still as manic as they used to be.
No, I haven't been on the forum in years, to be fair.
No,
it was more about the meets for me as well, to be fair, when I was there.
Forums are very quiet these days. I'll be honest.
I'm like Peach. I can't remember the last time I logged in. It's just.
The thing is, though, I think with the way the world's going, forums are very old-fashioned and old hat now. And to kind of keep relevant in this kind of world, you need to be using the social media platforms. You need to be using your Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, this, that, and the other, Snapchat. And if you haven't got the time to dedicate to it, you ain't gonna survive, sort of thing. It's still quite an old model.
Even black, like a lot of groups have got rid of like the forums now and just using Facebook discussions. sites to get meets and stuff.
No, that's
Probably the
that's
future.
literally it. I think that is definitely hitting there on the head. There, people are using sort of Discord servers and Facebook comments and stuff. So I think that's just where it's at now. That's the way the world's headed. So.
David says, do you think the lack of investment at Thorpe reduced interest in people going to Thorpe? And also, would TPM be better if it was based on other social media? Well, we've kind of talked about the social media bit.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is that TPM's always had a social media presence on Facebook. I think there's an Instagram account. I just don't know if all the efforts have been put into those platforms a lot, which is probably why we're not seeing much engagement on those platforms.
Those things you need to be doing your Instagram, your Twitter, like at least depend on the platform every couple of days, every week.
Yeah.
You know, just to make sure, and rather than just doing it like, oh, we're at a meet today, here we go. People just won't be engaged on it, sort of thing. And like personally, I hate all that, but you need someone who likes it and will engage on it. Lack of investment at Thorpe, I wouldn't say it's reduced the people going to the meets, because I think the actual thing was more about the social.
I think he means reduced people going to Thorpe. I didn't know there was reduced people going.
I don't know if attendance went down. I know it, like in the kind of community, people got a little bit fed up of it, but in terms of actual general public population, I thought the numbers were going strong.
I think the general public is strong. I think community base. You talk to anyone I speak to, it's Thorpe is at the bottom of their list to go to.
See, I think I'll go this year, but I haven't been since 2014, the year before Darren Brown's Ghost Train.
That's the thing.
Yeah, back then I wasn't interested. That's why I haven't been so long.
There's not really anything new. It's just
the park just seems to be a tick in the box for most people this year. I went to Thorpe on opening day this year. I've done Colossus once. That'll be the only time I do it this season. So
I don't like the lack of legroom in that ride.
Yeah, they've got a horrible new restraint checking system now as well. They've got lights fitted underneath the train, so they have to turn green before they can allow it to go. And
does anyone know if the one at Flamingo is going to have better legroom, or is it just going to be the same? I know they've got lap.
I think it's got a different train, is it not?
I know the restraints are different.
Sure.
And the first drop's different as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the first drop on it, I haven't got it on me now, but if you look at the first drop on the Flamingo Land 10 looping coaster, it kind of goes down and then banks round before it gets to the loop, rather than banking round and then going down the drop.
That's a bit of it opens.
Yeah, will open eventually. They've built it, haven't they?
Yeah, that's true.
Can't deny that. I remember the going back to the meetups. I remember it wasn't the Christmas one. I think it was in the New Year, but when we used to do Guildford.
Oh yeah.
And the one and only time I tried ice skating, and I just really couldn't get on.
No, I couldn't do ice skating either. I just gave up in the end. I was like, oh, screw it. Okay, well.
And Paige was like, "You got to just learn how to fall down, and then you'll be fine." And I was like, "I don't know if I can commit to that."
No, I think I did about 10 minutes, and I screw it. I gave up. It was too dangerous.
Does anyone else have any memories on the Guildford meetup? I remember the pub as well.
Go ahead, Mare.
I was gonna say, like, the main one I remember is the one where we went to Travelodge afterwards. Actually, did we do that? I think we only did it once, didn't we? Was there another time? But there was a time where.
Oh, was that Pop World?
No,
we did Travelodge quite a bit. Like people probably remember for those who did the overnight stuff, the amount of people we packed into one room just so we were saving costs when we were skint and young.
It's like a tram car.
Yeah, exactly. How many people can we get in this room? But like the Guildford ones is where that all kind of started, and I think the one that I was referring to, I remember we had the twister board, and
oh god, yeah.
And
a glitter ball in your room.
Dancing. Yeah, we did twister in the room, and I remember Mer had a bit to drink at this point, and she was literally eggplanting herself on the twister board, like just kind of stuck sort of thing. And we were just trying to lift her up a little bit so people can actually play like twister
Oh, Dan slept on the floor. He's thanking you for that.
Yeah, no, there was, I think we got like 3 or 4 people in the bed, other people on the floor. I think there was one time there was someone in the bathroom. They were having to let people go in bit by bit, so the people at Travel Lodge didn't like suspect that we were having like 10 people in like one room at point.
I'm surprised they didn't suspect when the rest of us would come over from our rooms and we'd all just be drinking that room for quite a while before.
Then at that point, it's like everyone's just chilling out in the one room and going back to their rooms after, sort of thing. So it's how you play it.
They probably don't care because they're like one member staff in them places in the evening.
I know I've had people care before about that.
We're in Travel
And
Lodge.
yeah, and Steve had to blag it, and he managed to blag it enough because the manager wasn't there, and he'd spoken to her, and the person believed us, so we got to stay. But we'd had a 2-person room and got a 3rd person in there, and that's the only time I've ever had it happen. That was Ashbourne near Alton Towers.
Oh,
Which
that
went
one.
nuts. And they were like, we're keeping your name, and it's going to be blacklisted on the database. I'm like, I'm sure that you won't.
Talking of coming in, I remember there was one with regarding Steven actually, where it was a Portland's part meet, and I was doing the
hang on.
service.
I just want to interrupt. The Steve I was talking about isn't Steve Vig from my story, by the way.
Oh, okay. Different Steve.
On,
so Mr. Vig, just to clarify.
This old story.
So we were at this Portland's part meet, and I was being like the peas taxi as I sometimes do, and there was not enough seats in the car.
Oh, I know this story. I wasn't sure if I was allowed to bring it up.
So, it doesn't matter, does it? Sort of thing. Like, if someone can come and arrest me if anything's wrong. So we stuffed Steve in the boot, and
was his head up? Could he kind of talk to everyone, or did you have him just?
You could kind of hear him through the seats, because I generally have like kind of big cars anyway. Because I generally have a few people in the car. So there was space in the boot for him to kind of like lay down in a kind of like a fetus position, so we were chatting on the way over there, and we had like a motorway journey as well. It wasn't like a short journey; it was like kind of like maybe like 20-30 miles. And then I remember on the way back, we got back in the boot again, but then when we got to the station, he'd fallen asleep. And so after he was like, he's gone a bit quiet, sort of thing. We thought he might just put his headphones in. And then we got to the station to drop him off, open up the boot, and he was like fast asleep, and we had to take him up.
Was there any sense of checking who's looking when you got him out of the boot when you got there, and we got him back in the boot when you left?
There was like, bearing in mind that there was a full car, there would have been 5 people, so those 5 people would have all kind of like all got out.
Oh, crowded around.
Yeah, crowded around. It's like, look in this boot, and then it's like, look, magic.
I think someone has a video of me getting out the boot, though, don't they? Someone somewhere.
Was that to blackmail Pete at the time?
There was someone took a video of me getting out the boot in the Portland's Park car park, which is just hilarious. But I was just, I mean, I look back at it now and just think that could have been fatal. Thank God it wasn't. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Talking of like other driving bits, I remember at an MOS meet, people might remember Pluck, who was a policeman, and I couldn't help but get the photo. So I remember before the MOS night, we were subbed out at the park, and then we would like have some drinks before we went back in. I remember just having this Jack Daniels bottle, and I was like, I need to get Pluck just to kind of like give me the thumbs up whilst I'm drinking behind the wheel. So I've got a photo of that somewhere.
That was staged, though, right?
That one was staged. Yeah.
Have you got any funny stories about Oakwood? Because for some reason that's just come to my mind, and I've got loads of memories about that myself. I remember. Do you remember Adam fell in that water ride?
Yeah, and I think someone.
That one you meant to skim along, and he just came down and just didn't.
I remember that. That's funny.
I can't remember what the ride's called now.
I know the one you're on about, but no, I can't remember it.
I remember there was a very awkward moment for me at Oakwood.
Steven is HOT hot, according to Revelry.
Yeah, it's I remember with I remember Matt Creek, and he had never been on a wooden roller coaster before.
Oh, this is a classic story as well.
Yeah.
Now you mention them, this is up there.
And like, bless his heart, sort of thing. Like, you know, great heart, and you know, as the meets went on, you grew to like, you know, you grew to some people, like, you have not the best first impressions, but they end up being the core thing, and then you defend them like the end of the earth. And I remember with this Oakwood trip, he was so excited to go on his first Woody, and he requested that I'd sat next to him, so I did, sort of thing. I thought it would just be an experience. Yeah, like, you know, can you come sit next? And so I went on with him, and he had this look of pure joy all the way through it. And
was he reacting to the ride, or was he just sitting there trying to take it in?
Yeah, no, he was reacting to the ride, but I remember, like, because, you know, he always had that camera, and he would always, like, be questioning or vlogging or this and the other. And I remember we got to that brake run, and I turned around to him, because he was a bit like, I know he's not the loudest of people, but he was quieter than normal. And I looked round, and he just looked really stunned. But then, you know, like, when you feel like someone's about to, like, it's a bit more than stunned and all that. And I remember just, like, turned around and was like, "You all right?" And then he just, like, and then he started weeping, because it was such a good experience for him, and he was so happy that he got to do it. And
I think it built it up so much in his mind that it was always going to be
exactly, and it must have lived up to expectations. But I remember the awkward thing about it was that the train ahead was a little, you know, was being a bit delayed because of the people getting in were being a bit slow. So I had this kind of like crying man next to me, and I can't get away from the situation. So it's like I have to deal with it. And it was like, you know, doing what I could. But then naturally he was like wanting to then do another vlog and question me at the end of it. I was like, no, this is my time to question you, because you've just had like this experience. So like, yeah.
Was it one of those things where afterwards you kind of almost questioned if it happened?
Yeah, I was. It was a moment.
I don't think it was the same year, but when I went to Oakwood with TPM, I remember we walked in the gates, and he pointed at, is it called Drench now, or it was called Hydro? It was one of the two, was the name it had before the accident. And he just pointed at it, and he went, "That's my first death cred." I was like, "You can't say that out loud in a group full of people." I wish I got that film, actually.
Yeah, that was funny.
Oh, it's Jack Stevens' birthday.
And Smidget as well.
What was that?
Smidget, it's her birthday as well. If anyone remembers Smidget.
I do. I do remember Smidget. Happy birthday to all TPM members on this 7th of April.
Top of the day.
It's a common day to have a birthday. Do you want to do this week's quiz?
Well, we can attempt it. That's all I say. I saw the thing from last week. I got 3 out of 10, so like, I ain't going to do that much help.
Well, as long as you get over 4 out of 10, you won't be bottom of the scoreboard. Do it as a team anyway. I've tried to pick Thorpe Park related questions for all of them, so it'll be a bit. So, number 1, what's the project name for the upcoming roller coaster being built at Thorpe Park? Yeah. Number 2, what was the name of the ride which was renamed Wicked Witch's Haunt in 1994?
I know this.
Other people can help him if you want. It's a team effort.
Kind of thing.
Well, it's that's my childhood, that.
Nah, it's gone.
Does anyone want to give it a guess?
Are we allowed to go back to one?
Yeah, but I feel like you're going to Google it. Yeah, come on. Nick's giving you a clue there. Nick Hudson. Hello, Nick Hudson.
Phantom.
Phantom Daisy, I
Venice.
don't know.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
Is that it?
Yeah.
There we go.
Right. What caused Wicked Witch's Haunt to close in 2000?
Oh,
Fire.
the Great Fire.
Oh, we all know that one.
Caused by cigarette.
What's the oldest ride still operating at Thorpe Park?
Yeah,
The
the current oldest.
It's got to be
The oldest one that's still operating.
Left Charge
Charge.
is 91. Rocket Express.
Rocket Express is no longer operating.
Yeah, it's gone.
Oh, that's gone. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Not as
officially
of
gone.
this year. I'm pretty sure it's Depth Charge.
Yeah, I was going to say
Let's
Depth
go
Charge.
through
It's either
all
Depth
those
Charge or
things.
it's Walking
Just
Dead.
the monkey.
Oh no, hang on. Thunder River, wasn't that 87 or 88?
Oh, yes. Thunder River.
Now
Yeah.
Logger Seat's gone. So go through those bits and then onto the newer bits. I'm going to have to go for Thunder River, personally.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that's all good.
I
Oh
would
no,
say...
it's Storm in a Teacup. Storm in a Teacup.
Is it?
I think Thunder
I've got
River
what
was
I've
in
got.
the
I've got what I've got written down, and I got it clarified by 2 websites. Because at the moment, it's making me think my answer's not right.
Okay. No, I mean, I didn't consider Rapids until Peach said the year, which actually makes sense. So I would say Rapids.
Yeah.
It's got to be a joint decision. It's a team effort here.
I guess, Rapids.
I'm going Rapids.
Go for the
Rapids.
Rapids, but I wouldn't
Yeah,
be surprised if it's the Teacup.
Yeah, it was the Rapids.
Hey.
There you go.
I think you're going to get this next one. What year did the Thorpe Park River Rapids first open? You got it, Peach?
Hey.
I think it was 87.
Yeah, 87.
It already
I think
it
you're
looks
gonna
it
get
as
all
well,
of
to be fair. It looks it.
What was the name of Thorpe Park's first roller coaster, which opened in 1984?
Space Zero.
Oh, yeah.
Space Station.
Space Station Zero.
Space Station Zero, yeah.
Also known as the Flyfish now.
Yeah, it's the same roller coaster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which of these animals wasn't a park ranger character at Thorpe Park? Frog, kangaroo, or a dog? You know the ones that are dressed up like animals, like the characters.
It's a dog. It's a dog.
Yeah, he's got it. I think you're going to get all these. You know, you said you weren't going to get.
Oh, you're doing history ones. You're talking about my childhood. I thought you were going to talk about more modern stuff, modern stuff. Nah, old stuff. Nah,
I thought modern stuff would be right in your memory. You know.
No, I don't really know what's been going on the last 4 or 5 years. So it's unless I like go somewhere and like,
Nothing
this
much.
is being built. Yeah.
What year did Thorpe Farm close?
2005.
Are we all agreed on that?
No, actually.
Sure.
No, sure.
It's either 2004 or 5, because it would have been before. It would have been before Stealth opened, or was that Model World?
Model World would have been Stealth.
Yeah.
It's when it's like Canada Peak Railway. That I remember 2007 sticks in my head a little bit. I don't know if that's because the Canada Peak Railway reopened or if it shut down.
I was going to say
The
I remember
railway
going to the
reopened.
farm in like 2005 and maybe 06 as well.
So maybe
No,
2007.
I feel like it closed. It didn't. They stopped running the water buses to the farm, and then they only had the train, and then the train closed.
When the farm closed, did the train just go up there and turn around, come back? I'm guessing because they still.
The train always went up there and turned around and came back. Because it just does a loop when it gets to the farm and comes back.
Oh, I thought it stopped at the farm to let people off.
It stops at the farm to let people off, but it loops around and then comes back, obviously. But that, I think, if I remember rightly, the water buses stopped, and that was the only way to get there was to take the train. Then they closed the train, and then that's when the farm stopped.
If you're saying 2005 and a couple of us saying 2007, what if we meet in the middle at 2006?
Does it
I
work?
think it would have. I think it would have closed. I think it closed before Stealth opened, which was 06.
I don't.
So
I'm sure.
Tom, what do you think? You've got to put your voice in.
No, I think 2007. Because don't think it was that recent.
What does Mer think?
I was going to say 07, or well, maybe technically end of like 06, because I don't know if it was open
I feel like
when I worked there, which was 07.
the circular railway was 2007 because there was no more fault. I
Yeah,
don't know
so
why.
maybe it shut at like the end. Yeah, like end of 06.
So,
I'll go with the majority vote.
What's that?
Go for 2006 then, because I think the railway opened in 7.
The year that Thorpe Farm closed was 2006.
Hey.
Right. This is a question. How many inversions does the swarm have, according to the internet?
How much what?
How many versions
How many
does the swarm
inversions
have?
does the swarm have? We talked about this last week as well, because
I'm trying to pick.
there's how many inversions it actually has, and then there's sort of how many inversions Thorpe said it had when it opened.
Inversions, Thorpe. Okay, I thought I didn't. So inversions. So clusters would be 10.
Oh no, how many inversions does the swarm have?
I thought it was 3.
How many versions does the swarm specifically have?
Yeah.
Yeah. God, I don't know.
Tom thought it was 3.
Is Nemesis Inferno 4?
I don't know. That's not the question.
No, well, you said all of them. You've got to add them all up, haven't you?
No, I said how many inversions does the swarm have?
Oh, the swarm. Apologies.
That's all right.
Right, you got the one in the station.
Oh, as you come off the
one on the lift hill.
This is going to be controversial.
And then you got the circular one, which is not an inversion, but is claimed to be an inversion.
Yeah, that's the. Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Which would make that 3.
Yeah, 3. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I would say 3. I was thinking 4, but I think it's 3.
Do you want to know the answer?
So, yeah, lift hill station, the controversial one.
There's a drop.
How many are we going?
Hang on, wait. There's a drop. Then there's the. I can't even think what it's called. The one after the. The one that goes over the fire. Is it a 0? Whatever. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, I know
there's the weird one.
You invert after around the sign, because that's the only thing I can think of if you do, or is it just like a lift airtime hill?
Is there a corkscrew? I can't remember. I haven't been for like 2 years. So.
This is Thorpe Park Mania.
Corkscrew's above the station, no? Where you got that near miss.
Yeah.
That's an inline twist.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I don't know mainline twists to my corkscrews these days.
Well, okay, so if there is one before the sign, that makes it 3/4, depending on people's opinion.
Yeah.
You're saying 4?
I would say 4.
It's 5.
What?
There's one at the top of the lift hill, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's one that Mer was talking about. There's one that Mer was talking about where you kind of after the drop, you kind of go up and it kind of does an inversion, comes back and goes through that sign, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then you get that fake one that I was saying was controversial. And then when you come back round, there's another one before you go round into the building.
Interesting. I'm gonna have to properly look at that.
If you watch a POV, you'll see what I mean. I think
I actually will watch a point of view after this.
But it was controversial because they said there were 5, but that loop that Paige was talking about, which is not an inversion, they count as an inversion. But to be fair, that's the only one you got wrong so far. Right, last one. The big top was a circus-themed scare maze at Thorpe Park. But what was the surname of the fictional brothers who ran the circus?
Figueroa.
That was it, I think.
Figaro.
That was it.
It's right, but I want to hear Tom say it.
Figaro.
You know this is going to be like... yes, you done well there. You got 9 out of 10.
That was quite a good quiz. I enjoyed that. We did really well.
I was surprised Nick Hudson was helping you out in the comments because his episode is the only other team that's got 9 out of 10, and I thought he's going to help you beat him, but he didn't get that. I thought you'd know straight away the Swarm was 5 because it was so controversial when it opened. The website was like, yeah, there's 5 inversions.
Yeah, Storm's quite forgettable in my opinion, so that's probably why I don't remember the inversion.
Yeah,
It's a nav coaster.
I like the inversion over the stations. That's the only thing I kind of remember.
The funny thing I think is I thought you wouldn't include that loop that's not really an inversion, but there's one after that as it's leaving the area with the water.
Yeah,
Almost
that's
like,
what I was thinking. Was
I
there
don't
a
remember
corkscrew
that
there?
at all.
I
That's what I
don't
was-
think it's quite a corkscrew, but yeah, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Almost like a heeled inline twist again. But you got 9, so you're doing all right.
Yay!
Could be worse.
Because looking at these scores, I think the lowest score was Dan Marks and David Blythe a few weeks ago. They got 4 out of 10, and I thought they were totally going to get it all right.
There we
Beat
go.
the 3 out of 10 I got last week.
What was the subject for that quiz?
I don't know what the subject was, but I just did like Huffington Year opening. I got that, and there was a couple of others which were related. It's back to the 80s and 90s again. I just think to be an 80s 90s one.
I'll tell you what. Before we go, I'll try something else. I don't know how good this is going to work. I had this idea for another segment called Rumours, where I would say 3 rumours about a ride, but only 2 of the rumours were actually rumours that circulated, and one was one that I've made up. Do you want to give that a go?
Oh my
Give
god.
that a go.
Yeah.
I feel like we
Well,
should. I feel like we should. Okay.
Right, these are all going to be rumours doing with before the Smiler opened.
Okay. And they're all about the Smiler.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
So the first rumour is, do you remember when? You got to remember this now. Do you remember when the Haunted House opened in 1992?
I wasn't even born.
No,
Oh
I
God.
don't remember.
Well, Philip Schofield helped open the Haunted House, and he was dressed as Dracula, and he was meant to come down and help open the Smiler, like in the same fashion, but obviously it got delayed, so that never happened. The second rumor is that in the blueprints there are pictures, and it was actually said as well, they were going to build viewing platforms around the ride, so you could actually film and take photos of the ride in quite cool places. But then they hadn't actually planned properly where the queue line was going to go, so that all got scrapped. And the third rumour that was circulated at the time was the washing machine element.
I remember the washing machine element.
I almost feel like I don't need to say anything
Yeah,
about
me
that.
too.
No,
But
I
for anyone
remember
who's
the
watching who
washing
doesn't know, they thought the car was going to be on the track like that, and the track was just going to move. They thought that was going to be in the indoor bit. And I remember part of that rumour also, people said if the inversion count was ever going to be beaten, they'd just set that to go round one more time, even though it doesn't really count as inversion.
No, I do
remember
remember
that
all the
washing machine
conversations
one.
on that.
But one of those
That is-
rumours isn't an actual rumour that was circulating at the time, it's just one I've made up.
Well, I think it's the Philip Schofield one, personally.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
What does Peach think? Peach thinks he's thinking about it.
Well, I don't know about the other two, so yeah, I'll just go for what everyone else is saying.
Yeah, it was the Philip Schofield one, yeah.
Yeah. I was. That was a complete guess, but it was the only one that
Have you
seemed
seen
a
any
bit-
pictures of the viewing platforms? It was quite good. It was quite. They released pictures and everything, and then it never happened. Everyone got excited about it.
Vaguely
Then the ride
remember
happened.
this.
Yeah.
But Philip Schofield did open
Occurred
the
to me
Haunted
who
House.
Philip Schofield is. Like, I was like, Philip Schofield is Philip Schofield, but I thought it's that in the morning presenter, innit?
Yeah.
Yeah. This
Yeah.
morning. Yeah.
That's definitely number one.
I don't know. He opened the Haunted House before Steven Vig was born.
Yeah, but that's before he was.
That was a
big.
year before I was born. Yeah.
So, do you want to go through any of your social medias before we go?
I haven't
I
got
don't
any.
have any social media that's open to public.
Oh, right.
But if you want to hit me up, it's just Steven Vig on all platforms.
Well, Paige, are you invested in social media these days?
I do not use social media, so you will not find me.
What whatsoever? Does Mel want to?
I don't.
Oh.
Don't know. What?
You finish what you're saying, and then I'm going to ask Tom about what's just come up on the chat.
Oh yeah, I saw that. No, not really. Not really. No, it's fine.
Tom, is Pegaland ever coming back? We talked about that last week, me and Austin.
Never happening.
Haven't you still got it? It's just not online. You've still
No,
got it
not
saved.
anymore. It's officially gone now.
Oh, you had the Lego flyers and everything.
I know. It's all officially gone. There we go.
For anyone who doesn't know, he didn't proofread his article on Lego fries, so the whole thing was related to Lego flyers. But Dan remembers, and I remember, and Austin remembers, and that's the important thing. But yeah, cheers for coming on. It was a bit more hectic having this many people. This is the most people I've had.
I've really
Next
enjoyed
week, I don't know if you want to watch next week.
Yeah, it was good.
We've got, I don't know if it's going to put people down to say he's probably the most famous person we're going to have on the show, but we're talking about Sanctuary next week. And I was thinking, I can't do a show about Sanctuary and not have Jerry Cannell on the show himself. So we have Dr. Kelman on next week.
Nice.
Oh, that's doing brilliant. But yeah, cheers for joining, cheers for watching, and
Thank you for having me.
we'll catch you when we catch you.
Cool.
Speaking of you all.
Yeah.